Welcome back, my friends. I hope you're doing well. In this video we will use, Windows 10 to connect to our PfSense firewall using a web browser. You can basically use any kind of system that you want as long as you have a web browser and as long as you are on the same network. Now, the green network will be 10.0.0. something, and the DMZ will have this specific IP address. Now, taking into consideration that you will only be able to configure our PfSense using the green network. So let's get started, shall we? We're gonna get started right here on our firewall, and take into consideration that we already have a public IP address and our green interface does have an IP address. It's right here, but it's not on the same network that we actually wanted. This is not the IP that we want, so we're going to change that. And if you read the menu, you will know that we need to choose option number 2, which is actually the third option when you think about it, since they start counting from 0. So set interface IP address. So we're going to choose option number 2, press enter, and we're going to change the LAN IP address, so press 2, and then we're going to give it a specific IP. So we're going to give it, excuse me, my numlock was actually disabled, and here we go, 10.0.0.254, which will be the gateway for the green network. I'm going to press enter, and then we will choose a 24-bit network mask. You can choose another if you want. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to press enter. We are not going to use any kind of upstream gateway, as this interface is itself a gateway. So I'm going to press enter. I'm going to ignore IPv6 for now, and as an exception, I will configure DHCP on this firewall, as I do not have any other servers yet to configure a DHCP service. So yes, I want to configure DHCP on this network, and I'm going to give it a 10.0.0.50, press enter, and I'm going to end it at 10.0.0.100. It could be any IP address really that you, as long as it's well configured, you wouldn't have to worry about anything. So press enter, and take into consideration that you do not want to revert to HTTP. I don't know why the firewall asks this question, but if you're actually connecting to configure the system for the first time, it doesn't really matter if it has the default password. What you want is always a secure connection. Now, the firewall will have a self-signed certificate, and you will connect to the firewall, and you will connect securely to that system, even though that you will see an error message, since it is a self-signed certificate. So I don't want to revert to HTTP, so I'm going to choose no, press enter, and it will configure the initial setup for us. So let us press enter and use our Windows machine to do the initial setup. So let me jump right into Windows. And please keep in mind that you should always check if you are connected to the same network. In the case of doubt, please use ipconfig/release to release any kind of IP addresses that you may have on your machine, and do an ipconfig/renew. Sometimes this process can take just a few more seconds. Mine was actually very quick. So I do have the 10.0.0.50, so I'm ready to go. Open up the Microsoft Edge and connect to your firewall using an HTTPS connection. So https://10.0.0.254, and let's advance and continue. Even though it is a self-signed certificate, we know that we are connected securely. So let us start by giving it the username and the password. So by default we are going to use admin, if I could write right there, admin, and the password will be PfSense, all lowercase, like I have written right here. So sign in, and we're going to go with next, next again. On the second step, we're going to change the host name. This is not mandatory, but I'm going to call it firewall. The domain, I will leave it as is, and I'm going to change the DNS servers. And as you can already see from previous labs that I have done, I actually have set up a few specific DNS servers, which are quad 9, so it's 4 9s, and the secondary DNS server I use only the number 1 on the 4 positions, so 1.1.1.1. So I'm going to remove the override DNS options, as I want to control which DNSs my servers are using. And go with next. And next again, you can change your time zone if you want. I'm not going to do that now. And the WAN interface, I'm going to leave it as is, and going to save. Next. LAN already has the IP address that we want, so we're going to leave it as is. So next, and we're going to give it a new password. Please remember your password, and if you forget it, don't worry, there is an option on the terminal of the firewall to reset your password if you have forgotten it. So I'm going to reload the system, and then we're going to set up the other interfaces that we haven't yet configured. So wizard has completed, we're going to go with finish, and then let's jump right into our configuration. It's gonna just take a second. So I'm going to accept this, and I'm going to close the thank you message. And keep in mind that we had 4 interfaces and we can only see 2, so we need to go to assignments, and we're going to add those 2 extra interfaces that are actually missing. So I'm going to add the first one and the second one. They do have a few strange names, but we're gonna change all this. So click save and go to interfaces again, and I'm going to change the name and some of the configurations of these networks. Go to WAN. I don't like to use the WAN and LAN terminology, so I'm gonna change the name to let's say internet, and I'm going to save it. Gonna save it. I will not apply changes right now. First I'll do all my changes, and when I finish everything that I want to change, then I will click on the apply changes button. So let's go again to interfaces and go to LAN, and I'm going to change the name to green, and the interfaces I'll leave it all capital case, so I want every single letter to be equal, and I'm going to save, and then we'll go to OPT1. Now remember, OPT1, from what we saw in the last video, was actually the blue interface. Don't forget to enable it. This is important. Enable the interface, and in your description, give it the name blue or any other name for that matter. And we're going to set it up with an IPv4 address. So we're going to change this to static IPv4, and then the IPv4 address, I'm going to leave it with 10.1.1.254 with the network mask of 24 bits. And I'm going to save. Next, go to OPT2, and of course, as you might have guessed, this is the demilitarized zone in our network. So we're going to enable it. We're going to change the description to DMZ. We're going to change the IPv4 configuration to static IPv4, and the IP address, we're going to keep it with the same configuration that we saw in our initial phase of this video. So the network will be 172.16, well, I said 16, not that. So 172.16.0.254, and we're going to leave it also as a 24-bit network. So our network mask will be 24 bits. We're going to save it, and now we will click on apply changes and validate if everything is working, or if we receive any kind of error messages. So it should work. It may take a while, since we did a very few configurations all in one go. And I'm going to wait. It's taking a few seconds, and they have been applied successfully. Now keep in mind one thing. If you go to firewall and view your rules, what you will see is that the green interface will have these two specific rules that will allow you to go to any connection, to any IP address, to anywhere. It doesn't really protect you from anything. Now keep in mind, the connections coming from the internet need to be filtered out, but the connections on an outbound communication, so connections from our machine to the outside world, should also be filtered and monitored. And with these configurations, basically what I'm saying is you can go to anywhere you want without restrictions. Now in the next video we will see how we can actually change these rules and try to harden our network just a little bit, so that we cannot go all willy-nilly and connect to anywhere, any place, to any protocol. So we're going to actually clamp down on these networks. Of course, the blue interface and the demilitarized network don't have any rules and firewall. This firewall usually works with deny by default, unless of course you want to set up any special information or setup where you would allow any connection by default, and that would be disastrous in terms of security, of course. So what we can actually say right now is, well, the DMZ, the blue network, they are secure on outbound communications, and the green one is not, but it will be on the future. I'll see you on the next video. Okay, bye bye guys, and thank you for watching.